Hi, this is Mark Gardner, your district TOSA. This short video is going to acquaint you with a rule change at the state level that will impact our teacher evaluation. And in my opinion, it's a positive change that actually makes more space for growth in our evaluation model. So first thing, some definitions. You're going to hear me talk about a WAC change. So WAC stands for Washington Administrative Code. And this isn't the law necessarily that was passed by the legislature, but it's guiding policy about how OSPI and districts interpret and implement the law. So the change that OSPI made to the Washington Administrative Code was based on the idea that the model is supposed to be about growth. And if the model is supposed to be about growth, that means sometimes it requires risk. What a lot of districts were finding during the focused evaluation years, those years that teachers only had to focus on one of the 8 criterion, a lot of teachers were picking criteria that were easy, slam dunk, didn't require any risk, didn't require any stretch, and didn't really foster any opportunities for growth. Part of the reason was that fear of taking a risk and getting a negative evaluation. So the change that has been made addresses the focused years where a teacher is on a 1 criteria evaluation. The change is that our summative scores during those focused years are going to look a little different after you've had the chance to complete a comprehensive evaluation on all 8. The next few slides will help clarify what this means. So, if you've completed a comprehensive evaluation, either last year, this year, or in future years, and you are in continuing status, so you're not a provisional employee who's early in their career or just starting here in Camas, and you received an overall summative rating from those 8 criteria that you were overall proficient or distinguished, the change is that summative score you received on your comprehensive is going to hold for those focused years. So let me explain that a little bit more detail. So let's say Mrs. Teacher was focused last year on criteria 6, she got a summative proficient. No problem at all. This year, she ends up going on comprehensive because we all do at some point in our 4-year cycle. So those scores in June are what she received. You can see she had a couple basics on criteria 1 and criteria 3, but overall, she received a summative proficient. So she's qualified to go back to focused for the next 3 years. So we fast forward to next year, she's back on focused, but even from the beginning of the year, that overall proficient that she earned back in 2016-17 holds. So what that means is, as she thinks about what criteria she wants to focus on, she can focus on criteria 1 where she had a basic. And a lot of times teachers wouldn't want to do that under the previous WAC because they'd worry about still having a focused basic in that criteria. And it turns out, as we fast forward into our hypothetical future, in fact, in June, she still had a basic on criteria 1. Now, in the old model, that would be concerning. And that would be a reason why people might not choose an area that they need to grow in. However, she's still unfocused because that overall proficient that she earned back in 2016-17 still holds. She isn't receiving any kind of negative effect of that June basic in criteria 1. This is what gives us that flexibility and that freedom to take some risks and to try some things out, even if they don't succeed the first time. So she continues to try to refine those criteria 1 practices, and then by June of that year, she does achieve proficiency. Now, in her 3rd year of focused, that overall proficient that she earned way back in 2016-17 has still held. And she thinks back and reflects on her self-assessment. She realizes that criteria 3 was one of those that she had a basic on. She chooses to focus on that, and she, by the end of June, is able to demonstrate a level of proficiency for her focused evaluation. So during those 3 years, this teacher was able to experiment a little bit, try out some practices, refine some of the areas that were identified as basic, and this was all in a situation where she didn't have to risk a negative evaluation. That overall summative proficient held for the 3 years that she was on focused. Now, it is important to mention that if an evaluator has concerns about a teacher's performance, and that teacher is currently on focused, the evaluator can transition the teacher back to a comprehensive all 8 evaluation. But typically, that would only be if there were significant concerns and perhaps that teacher might be in need of some coaching or remediation. But in the case of Miss T, as we look at this trajectory that she was on, her evaluator didn't have concerns about her performance. And those 3 focused evaluation years from 2017 through 2020 were the opportunity for her, without worry about her evaluation being negative, to experiment, to learn, and to grow in the areas of her summative evaluation that showed room for growth. So now we continue to fast forward to the 20 to 21 school year, and because we're on a 4-year rotation, she rotates back onto our comprehensive All-8 evaluation. And if this is a growth model, the idea is those practices that she learned about and tried over the course of her 3 years in the focused evaluation are going to have a ripple effect into other aspects of her practice, with the likelihood that she may be emerging and rising to a distinguished level in some of these criteria. So hopefully that overview makes sense to you. By all means, if you ever have any questions about your evaluation, the law, our contract, the framework, or the procedures, that's been my role for the last 6 years here in the Camas School District, so I'm happy to help in whatever way I can. It is also the season for developing student growth goals, so I do want to remind you that there are student growth goal resources out there. If you go to the Camas School District website, go to the staff corner, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see a link to student growth goals, where a lot of your colleagues have created videos and resources to help you understand their student growth goal process so that you can learn from what your colleagues have done. And again, if you ever have questions, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm happy to come to your site to answer questions or help you out, or even work with you as you move forward with your evaluation.